A lot of people said the HELENIUS Wilder fight was fixed. I disagreed. But he did fight totally out of character. How he fought Anthony Joshua is how he normally fights. You know, the swaying back from punches, trying to clip you with sneaky jabs and left hooks. And him being a late notice substitute and being a talented fighter, and I'm not just saying that now, I can play you the post-fight Erkan Tepe fight. I'll leave it in the description box and you can hear what I say about Robert HELENIUS. You can hear what I said about him years back. A talented fighter who came in at short notice. He gave AJ issues, yes he did. Busted his nose, left him a little puffy around the left eye. We didn't see AJ's uppercut because HELENIUS was always moving away and leaning back from shots, so we didn't see the uppercut. And he was trying to take the sting out of a lot of AJ's shots, and that was frustrating AJ. And the late change of opponent didn't give him time, I'm guessing, to work on straighter punches and different punches, different shape punches he was probably practicing for Dillian. However, AJ's jab was the stronger jab all the way through, and HELENIUS felt the weight of the jab. Both their noses were damaged from the jab, but HELENIUS's beak looked in worse condition than AJ's. Thankfully, your man Derek James bought an N-swell or some metal object that you can put in ice and reduce swelling. He didn't have one of them for the Errol Spence fight, as Leon Muhammad pointed out. Very wise old sage he is. And after being a bit of a chess match for the first two, AJ got into the fight more. By the 5th round, it wasn't really a contest. A lot of people say AJ was gun shy. He was trying to land big hooks from the left and right hand. He was just missing the target. So when he does throw punches and misses, that don't mean he's gun shy. He missed the target. That means he has to work on the setup more, which he did. And he set up the finish nicely in the 7th. He landed that jab 140 into the round to the body. And HELENIUS, he tried to style it out by what looked like trying to straighten his trunks. That jab forced HELENIUS to the ropes. HELENIUS retaliated with a jab himself. And this time, AJ slipped it perfectly. He went with his jab to the body and then the overhand right. The jab to the body was a decoy. HELENIUS leaned back, but he had nowhere to go. Had his back to the ropes, and he gambled one time too many, leaning back.
Lean back.
And AJ landed perfectly. Previously, HELENIUS
lean back
got away with it. Even when he was getting caught with some good left hooks, he wasn't getting caught full on. It is boxing, sometimes you have to rely on your reflexes, and when they let you down, that's what happens. Joshua has to look at the anatomy of that knockout, the setup. You know, look at the freeze frames. Look how low you are when you're throwing that overhand right. You're out of your opponent's periphery for one of the few times when you're setting up that power punch. Joshua's legs, they look strong. You need strong legs to go into that Wilder fight. They look strong. He kept his shape. No problem at all. He made the adjustments with the late substitute. The clues are there on how to set up that knockout punch and get up close on Wilder without putting himself in potential harm. The clues are there. There's people saying, oh, he doesn't have the power to trouble Wilder.
Bullshit.
You know, I was getting prepared for this fight, but what most people seem to be saying is, oh, it's okay, AJ, you don't need to take it. You go take some more tune-ups. And when he takes the tune-ups, they're going to sneak it in that he's ducking Wilder. There's some people who don't want to see AJ fight Wilder. They don't want to see him fight Fury. I think, you know, if he does too well or beats both of them, then they can't stay with this timid, weak, never did nothing. Eddie's a bad promoter, can't get in fights. And I'm not tripping, it's not paranoia. Like when Eddie made the undisputed fight with Fury 2021 and they pulled out, there were people celebrating that the fight didn't happen because they just wanted to say that, oh, Eddie couldn't cut it, he couldn't make the fight. When the DAZN deal was lined up for Wilder to fight AJ for undisputed, the shit they were saying, AJ didn't want to fight and the deal wasn't right, even though Lou DiBella said it was a perfectly good deal. The best one that Wilder came up with was he was betting on himself. What I would like to know is, outside Tyson Fury, and when Wilder fought Tyson Fury, it was a cherry pick that went wrong. It wasn't like he fought the 2015 Tyson Fury who beat Vladimir Klitschko, which I think is a way superior product than what Wilder fought. Like, what's the logic that AJ needs tune-ups to fight Wilder when Wilder hasn't beaten nobody with a better resume than Anthony Joshua? On paper, this is his second toughest fight of his career. What's the logic that AJ needs tune-ups to fight Wilder when Wilder hasn't beaten nobody with a better resume than Anthony Joshua? On paper, this is his second toughest fight of his career. There is a debate to be had whether Fury has a better resume than Anthony Joshua. You know, AJ's got a higher knockout percentage than Tyson Fury. Only Luis Ortiz has a higher percentage of knockouts than anyone who Wilder's faced. But who's he knocked out? Bryant Jennings? That's a good win. But AJ, we're talking about Klitschko, Povetkin, Dillian, Pulev. Fury, we're talking like, okay, he's knocked out Wilder, Derek, Dillian. So AJ will be definitely one of the best punchers that Wilder has faced. I'm wondering if they're protecting Wilder more than they're protecting AJ sometimes when they talk. I don't know. When they talk about Wilder versus Ruiz, there seems almost an excitement about that fight. Yeah, we want to see that fight. But, whoa, AJ fighting Wilder, no way. Go look at Anthony Joshua's knockout record compared to Andy Ruiz's and their common opponents. Go look what AJ's done to their common opponents compared to what Andy Ruiz has done. So Andy Ruiz just goes straight into a fight with Wilder. No tune-ups, but AJ needs tune-ups. Luis Ortiz didn't need tune-ups. HELENIUS didn't need tune-ups. Chris Arreola, Eric Molina, and I could go on. They didn't have no tune-ups. Wilder hasn't fought for the last 10 months, and that was one round against HELENIUS. There's a gift and a curse to that for big punchers historically. While they're not taking unnecessary punishment, getting people out of there early, they also miss out on vital rounds and experience. And some of them are not battle hardened when people start punching back. Punchers who develop reputations are known to neglect fundamentals and get lazy in the ring, and that's when they lose. AJ wasn't perfect against Jermaine Franklin, but they're acting like the 10 rounds actually did him harm, or the 7 rounds against HELENIUS did him harm. He wasn't on the floor. The scorecards were never in doubt. You had to work a few things out. But a lot of people, you know, like, oh, 7 rounds. It's a 12-round fight. His fight with Wilder won't be scheduled for 1 round. It will be scheduled for 12 rounds. The third Fury fight ended in round 11. Boxing can be a sprint, but the duration of the elite championship bouts are 12-round fights. One of the big questions about this fight is who has taken the most damage in their career. You know, AJ avenged the only stoppage loss of his career, and he was outclassed in the 2 Usyk fights, but he didn't sustain the type of beating that Wilder did in the 2 Fury fights. He has never taken a beating like Wilder took in the 3rd fight. Never. People don't seem to be taking this into account. 2020, the 3 biggest heavyweights in the game: Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder. Neither Fury or Wilder would fight during the lockdown. AJ did. You can say what you want or where you think he stands amongst the heavyweights currently, but he's always consistently trying to improve himself and trying to test himself. He showed good professionalism against HELENIUS. The ghost of what happened to the last late substitute could have led to that card being called off, but he went through with it, done a very professional job. He was critiqued for the Pulev performance, and more than likely, Wilder could knock out Pulev, could knock out Jermaine Franklin, and we certainly knocked out HELENIUS earlier than AJ. Doesn't necessarily tell us how he does in a fight with Anthony Joshua. This is a difficult fight for both men. It's all on the line. Malik knows it. Derek knows it. Anthony knows it. Deontay knows it. See, I don't do the short memory thing. I never have done on this channel. That's one thing I pride this channel about. It never does the short memory thing. I still remember Wilder being on the canvas how many times in 2020, and the same thing in 2021. I still remember that. I still see a man who's not that keen to get in the ring talking about, oh, we're not going to fight nobody who prices themselves out, when talking about this tune-up before he takes on AJ in Saudi Arabia. But the money you're going to earn in Saudi Arabia, you do what you got to do to get the fight done. So you prep yourself to take on AJ. But, you know, it's either they're not confident in case they get taken into a tough fight, they're not confident, or they're overlooking AJ. Yeah, we can just stay out for 15 months and beat AJ because it's easy work, isn't it? AJ's the easiest guy to beat in the division. You know, like, AJ needs 20 warm-ups before he fights Wilder. It's easy. He's scared of his shadow. You know, Wilder had a full camp for HELENIUS. AJ had a week or so. In that position there with so much on the line, so much finances on the line in Saudi Arabia, the smart thing to do could have been to call off, but he didn't. I don't think he wanted to let down himself and the other fighters who put in a lot of work to get on the card and they all got paid. Doesn't need no extra fights to fight Wilder. He'll have a full training camp as long as he wants to prep for Wilder. He's been a pro for, 11 years? He's as ready as he's ever going to be ready. If Anthony Joshua is not ready to fight Deontay Wilder next, Deontay Wilder can retire comfortably today because no one else is ready to fight him, if that's the case, apart from Tyson Fury. Andy Ruiz is not ready. Luis Ortiz isn't ready to have a third fight with him. Jared Anderson, HRGOVIC is not ready. No one is ready. If AJ is not ready to fight him next, nobody is ready. Activity, age, size are all in Anthony Joshua's favor. You know, the one round against HELENIUS told us that Wilder has punching power. It doesn't tell us how deep the psychological scarring he took from the Tyson Fury fights back to back is. Doesn't tell us that. I want AJ to test it out first. I don't want no other fighter to get to Wilder before Anthony Joshua. The truth is, there's only 2 more heavyweights who you could possibly say are more qualified to fight Deontay Wilder than Anthony Joshua on paper. And that's Fury and Usyk. Who is Wilder beat who's more qualified to fight him than Anthony Joshua? And if you say Luis Ortiz, you're an idiot. If he swerves the fight, he can have 100 fucking tune-ups and he'll never have the confidence. All these commentators are talking about all what Joshua has to do for the fight. They're not talking about what Wilder has to do. Nothing at all. Oh, you just go in there and it's a guaranteed win. It was supposed to be a guaranteed win against Fury. Now, it's either they're sheep and they're just following what TalkSport and the like are saying because it's easy content to make, just critique Anthony Joshua, or you don't really know what you're talking about. But it's up to Anthony Joshua to block out all the YouTube channels and medias talking about how mentally weak he is and he's scared and this and that. Block that out, and it's up to him to expose the question that they don't talk about because it doesn't get views and it's not very good clickbait, is what Deontay Wilder do we have in 2023, 37 years of age, inactive, with Malik Scott as a trainer? And I'm not convinced about Malik. I'm not. In a fight situation, you don't want to make mistakes. Let's get that clear. But it's better for Tyson Fury to make some mistakes against a non-puncher like Otto Wallin, just like it's better for AJ to make a few mistakes against Jermaine Franklin than it would be against Deontay Wilder. Like Ali's 2 fights before he fought Liston against Doug Jones and Henry Cooper wasn't that great. Let's say that. You know, people highlight the mistakes like that's the worst thing. Like, if you're inactive and not fighting, how does Malik know what mistakes that Wilder might make against AJ? He's inactive. Has he dealt with all the demons from the 2 Tyson Fury fights? Has he dealt with them all? Yeah, he was brave in the 3rd fight. Yeah, you were brave. But it's the type of defeat that can leave you blunted. The only way to find out if it hasn't left him blunted is to take a fight that perhaps goes 4 or 5 rounds, 6, 7, the 12-round distance. But then again, to be honest, he's a puncher, so a lot of the fights just don't go that distance, in all fairness. But wouldn't that be a reason why he needs to fight more frequently?
So we're set then for the 3rd time, this man Anthony Joshua taking on a late substitute.
The good thing is he's actively working on stuff that he's working on with Derek James in actual fight situations. Wilder isn't doing that. He had a few minutes action against HELENIUS. Anthony Joshua is in a good place as an underdog in that fight, with everybody doubting him. He's in a really good place. He works extremely hard at his game, no matter what nobody says. The whole perception that he was given everything, that's not true either. He doesn't believe he's got his due. And I'm not saying he's Terence Crawford, but Terence Crawford was spurred on to destroy Errol Spence, and he was fueled up by the motivation that he hadn't got his dues from the boxing media, the boxing fans, etc., etc. And AJ believes the same too. He believes he's done a lot of stuff for the sport and hasn't got credit for it. He's tried to make a lot of fights that fell through, not through no fault of his own, and I think he believes if he wins this fight, he'll get the credit that he's due for beating Wilder. But you know what they're going to say? Oh, Wilder was finished because he lost to Fury twice and he was old, he was inactive. The PBC fans will scream foul. Eddie Hearn fixed the fight against Wilder, glove gate, costume gate, egg weight gate, this gate, that gate, Watergate. Racegate, race bait. They did the same with the Vladimir Klitschko fight. It was more or less 50-50 split who was going to win. And when he won, Klitschko was old. Although it was the same Klitschko who hadn't stopped training, waiting for that rematch with Tyson Fury. He actually came in lighter for the Anthony Joshua fight than he did for the Tyson Fury fight. But Joshua's one of them guys, just got to keep grinding. And when he retires, then let the people evaluate his career. Go from there. The perception is that Wilder is a harder man, a tougher man. And perhaps that is the body language and his mouthpiece till this day, and him snarling a lot, where AJ doesn't do that, is where that perception has grown legs. But AJ's not taking 3 years off like Tyson Fury, not sitting on the sidelines like Wilder because he doesn't want his opponents to price themselves out. In fact, AJ took a pay cut on Saturday. His willingness when he had the belts to take on mandatories, unifications, and try and get undisputed, the consistency there, his mental toughness is undersold because it's subtle. It's not, to this day, and crash bang with Tyson Fury and this and that. Yeah, he lost badly against Andy Ruiz, AJ, but he righted the wrong within 6 months. How long did it take Deontay Wilder to try and rectify the second fight with Tyson Fury? Way over a year and a half. People sleep on Anthony Joshua's toughness. They do. What I'm surprised at, though, is how many people are not taking the inactivity from Wilder into consideration on how this plays out. Weird.
I was listening to what David had to say. Some fighters benefit from that, but I disagree with that totally, because activity is the most important thing in a fighter's career. David can say what he likes about inactivity, but in the end of it, it does catch up with you.
I've always heard that inactivity is the killer for a boxer. No matter how hard they punch, no matter how good the highlight reels look, it's almost like you're holding AJ's activity, you're holding it against him, and while Wilder is inactive, he's almost growing in reputation because you're picking out all the flaws from AJ's activity, and that's sticking in your head. But Wilder's inactivity is almost like his reputation is growing in your mind, when the inactivity should be making you ask more questions of Wilder than you ask of AJ, who you can see active. I don't know what Wilder's doing. It would be good, like, if he took one of AJ's common opponents' fight, Jermaine Franklin, to see how that goes. But the response that I saw from the AJ HELENIUS fight, Wilder doesn't need a tune-up. This is a formality. I'm hoping they're wrong, and I have a little more faith in AJ than that. They're telling Derek Chisora to retire, and I say they because, it's a lot of people. They're telling him to retire. Not really my thing. I don't want to keep repeating the material. No, it's not my thing to tell people what they should do. And I don't want to be classified as a libertarian because I really don't know the full concept of what that means to be one. I'm just being me. If he wants to box, let him box. If he keeps fighting opponents like Gerald Washington, who the Home Office need to block from the country to take part in any type of boxing. You can be a tourist, no problem at all, but nah, no more fighting over here. Now, if Derek is in fights like that, there's no way he gets on a Matchroom card, and I wouldn't imagine TNT Sports will use him either. Ben Shalom, he'd probably use him because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. It's about supply and demand. If people don't want to see Derek Chisora, they won't put him on the cards, and you won't see him no more. He'll be faded out. If he can't pass MRIs because he's taking too much licks in his head, the board won't clear him to fight. His career will phase out organically. I don't have to get into this hysterical, oh, Del boy, we love you, we're only retired. I don't need to get into that. These decisions will be made for him, one way or the other. They will be made for all boxers, whether they want to retire or not. Eventually, you might not retire on your own terms, but you'll be forced out of the game. Even the white-collar circuit won't use you if you deteriorate that badly. It is what it is. Some people scored that fight for Gerald Washington. Okay, you're scoring a fight with somebody, anytime the action gets up close, he wraps up his opponent's elbow. The left elbow, the right elbow. There was times it looked like he was trying to push a wheelbarrow and locking up both elbows. But this man doesn't have the will to fight inside, even against a 39-year-old Derek Chisora. He didn't want to fight inside against someone who was physically taller and bigger than. But let me just say this quickly. The wrapping up of the elbow makes it hard for you to get leverage, even to throw rabbit punches. And these type of skills, if you like, or techniques, were not practiced by Dempsey McKean. That's why he was a victim of a rabbit punching mugging from Filip HRGOVIC. When you wrap up the elbow like that, it's hard to keep your balance, and they're taught that in the American gyms. To the person I scolded in the comment section, talking about HRGOVIC should have been disqualified and the referee should have been banned for life on all this, don't take it as too much of an offense. It does get annoying though, because when you're in that ring, you have to understand where you are. There are some people who are taught all the fucking tricks. There are a lot of boxers who, if you tried to rabbit punch them, they would have a prerequisite move to avoid the worst of that. And there's others who just become victims. That's the game. That is the game. This is pro boxing. Derek forced the pace for the most part. His overhand right was slow and sloppy as anything. And like, you know, Washington had a lot of opportunities to get off. He did land some good shots at times. But to award that decision to Gerald Washington would be one of the worst days for boxing ever. He didn't win the fight anyway. He just didn't do enough work. But if you believe that, I tell you what, the sport would die. The fans would stop turning up. If Gerald Washington starts getting decisions like that, the fans will stop turning up to the arenas in America and the UK. Sport's dead. He's a horrible fighter. Horrible. The people saying that he should have won it, you're the boxing fans who don't pay subscriptions, pay-per-views, or tickets or anything for fights. Trust me. But in saying that, what's Andy Lee's excuse? Andy was saying he didn't know who was going to get the decision. Phew. Andy. Johnny Fisher, he landed a power jab in the opening seconds of his fight, and he rocked his opponent, Harry Armstrong. He was the best opponent that Johnny's faced. Put him on the canvas with a follow-up barrage. It looked like the fight was going to be over quick. Harry, however, managed to pin Johnny on the back foot from the second round onwards. Johnny looked pretty comfortable on the back foot, which surprised me. But Johnny was in a fight now, you know. He was in a fight, in a good fight, and for a little while, he wasn't sure which way it was going to go. I thought Harry Armstrong would have came in lighter, but either he didn't do the cardio or he deliberately came in heavy to try and push Johnny back. He was actually 9 pounds lighter than he was for the Jamie TKV fight. You know, Johnny makes a few errors. Like that overhand right can be timed, it can be slipped and countered by an opponent's right hand, but Harry didn't have the hand speed for that, carrying all that girth around the midsection. So Johnny's still a little crude. Harry, however, after, you know, shocking people by holding his own in the ring center, forcing Johnny back, he couldn't build on it, and by the 6th round he looked a little fatigued when he got pushed over, and in the 7th he became a sitting duck for that telegraphed right hand that Johnny threw, and that's what put him on the canvas again. And a follow-up finish, and Armstrong cut around the eye, with bravely taking the punches, but his corner threw in the towel. Don Charles was in his corner, and that was it. Southern Era champion Johnny Fisher. In my prediction, I said that HRGOVIC would mug McKean off in the inside, and I was right. You know, like, the rabbit punch is illegal, yes, but he also landed some good right hooks to the stomach as well. McKean, however, with his work rate and that long southpaw lead, was in the fight until the last round. HRGOVIC looked like he was running out of ideas. Looked like McKean. I kept calling him Mackenzie all through the hangout. Looked like McKean took the best of his punches. By the 8th, McKean was really going for it. Coming forward, throwing to the body. He really wanted it. He was so hungry for this fight, and that impressed a lot of people, including myself. But in doing that, he left himself open to big counter punches, and HRGOVIC caught him with a beautiful right hand, which McKean walked into. And I don't want to keep talking about AJ, you know, but in the heavyweight division, if you walk onto the punches, there's often no way back. And that's why AJ is not trying to walk onto punches, because it's not good business. It's not good business. McKean, realizing that he could pull off an upset, he kept forcing it into the 12th and was using his jab pretty well. pressing the action, but he had no defense for what was coming back. That was the issue. And that right hand counter eventually got in there, and you could see HRGOVIC's corner jumping up like finish it, and he did finish it. McKean slumped over the ropes, defenseless. Some people said it was a poor stoppage. Are you out of your mind? Come on, man. A lot of people are going to talk about HRGOVIC look flat, and yeah, he didn't look great, but what I find with a lot of people who talk about boxing, they underestimate how actually hard it is to win. You know, McKean was undefeated. He's a big guy. Australian dudes are pretty tough, just generally. They are pretty tough dudes. And he came to win. You got to take things into account. Like, this guy has left Australia for a long period of time. He's not over here with Tony Sims sightseeing. He's working every day on his game. He's given up his life for boxing. There's no moonlighting like there was for a lot of world-ranked fighters back in the day. They had to moonlight. No, this is his full-time profession, and he came to win. He was hungry. Trains alongside the likes of Conor Benn, Jordan Thompson, Joe Cordina in Tony Sims' gym. He sparred with AJ a whole load of rounds and a lot of good heavyweights. He's beat the likes of Jonathan Rice. And the fact that HRGOVIC has still got his mandated shot at the winner of Dubois versus Usyk is nothing to, you know, frown upon or clown. It was a tough fight and he pulled it out. Credit due. But yeah, he did look flat at times. He looked disinterested. Yes, he did. Funnily enough, this is probably the best victory of his career. I don't believe he won the Zhang fight, so I can't quite give him them props to say, yeah, this is the best victory. He did win, officially, but not in my opinion. I would pick Usyk to beat him, but I'm not going to write him off. I'm not going to write him off totally. At least he understands the right hand is the counter for the southpaw. At least he understands that. I believe HRGOVIC is a dangerous heavyweight. He's a dangerous heavyweight, not destined to go down as an ATG or anything like that. But I believe he's a dangerous heavyweight. 12th round finish. McKean, where does he go from here? We'll see what ambition he has left. He'll be gutted losing that fight there in the last round. It's a tough battle. He needs to have a rest, and if he decides to carry on, he can always draw on the great effort he put into that fight if he has any doubts. Because before this fight, he didn't know how good he was. He never fought no one this good. And if he has any doubts, but wants to continue, he should at least understand that he can fight a bit, but he was a little naive in there. There's some very good fights out there for him. Very good.